Federal agents murdered Ruben Ray Martinez. This is Law and Society. Please subscribe. This murder was the first of the 6 that we know about that's been committed by federal agents since Donald Trump unleashed his federal agents on the American people. So I'm going to read you reports from various news organizations that are now reporting about this murder that happened last year. An American citizen was shot and killed in Texas by a federal immigration agent last year during a late-night traffic encounter that was not publicly disclosed by the Department of Homeland Security. The death of Ruben Ray Martinez, 23 years old, would mark the earliest of at least 6 deadly shootings by federal officers since the start of a nationwide immigration crackdown in Donald Trump's second term. DHS said the shooting on South Padre Island last March occurred after the driver intentionally struck an agent. Remember this because this is the narrative that looks a lot like Renee Good's narrative. The records are part of a tranche of heavily redacted internal documents from Immigration and Customs Enforcement that American Oversight, a nonprofit, obtained as part of a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. Though Martinez's death on 15th March 2025 was reported by local media outlets at the time, federal and state authorities did not disclose that there was the shooting. So that's a failure of the national press. The local media picked up and reported on it. Why didn't the national media pick it up at that point? Why March of 2025, that was just a couple of months into Donald Trump's second term, his regime was just picking up, and had the American people known what was going to happen right then when it started happening, we perhaps could have stopped future murders. DHS said the driver who was killed, quote, intentionally ran over a Homeland Security investigation special agent, resulting in another agent firing defensive shots to protect himself, his fellow agents, and the general public. Again, this is exactly what they said about Renee Good. Homeland Security officers were assisting South Padre Island police by redirecting traffic through a busy intersection where a vehicle accident had occurred with several injuries. And my first question is, why was Homeland Security helping local police with traffic? Presumptively, there are enough traffic police who are charged with that, who can take care of that. I mean, that's what traffic police are meant to do. This is happening in Texas, so keep in mind that a lot of the domestic law enforcement also are being ordered to or are willingly helping federal agents. A blue 4-door Ford with a driver and passenger approached the officers, who ordered the driver to stop. So my question is, why did Homeland Security stop the car? They don't have jurisdiction to stop traffic. The report does not say why. Initially, the driver didn't respond to commands, but eventually did come to a stop, according to the report. Agents then surrounded the vehicle, telling those inside to get out. Why were they being told to get out? But then they say, but the driver accelerated forward. If this is true, it would support the narrative that Ruben escalated the situation. When they say the driver accelerated forward, it shifts the blame onto Ruben. And we don't know if that's true or not. And struck a Homeland Security special agent who wound up on the hood of the vehicle. So we have to kind of ask, was it that the federal agent was run over, or did he end up on top of the hood? You can't be both. If you're run over by the vehicle, you're under it. If you're on the hood of the vehicle, you're over it. The report said that. So these are all questions that I have when I keep reading these news about this particular incident. A Homeland Security supervisory special agent standing by the side of the car, then fired his weapon multiple times through the open driver's side window, and the vehicle stopped. So the supervisory agent started firing at the car while another agent was on the hood of the vehicle and the car was moving. How is that a safe way to enforce the law? And why are you surrounding the car? Traffic police doesn't surround the car. And traffic police doesn't chase after cars. They record the license plate number and they put that in their dispatch, and police, local and state, follow up on it and get that car down the road. That's how it usually happens. Paramedics already on the scene of the accident quickly provided medical aid to the driver, and the driver was taken by ambulance to the regional hospital in Brownsville, where he was pronounced dead, according to the report. The Homeland Security officer, whom the report says was struck by the vehicle, was treated for an unspecified knee injury at a nearby hospital and released. So this agent was so severely struck by the car that he had a knee injury that could be taken care of through outpatient service. He wasn't pronounced dead, or he wasn't pronounced critically injured. He was allowed to leave after he was discharged, after he was, treated for his wounds. Ruben's mother said that the investigator told her that there were videos of the shooting that contradicted the account provided by federal agents. Is anybody surprised by this? This exact same storyline as Renee Good. The Texas Department of Public Safety, which includes the Rangers, said in a statement Friday that the investigation into the shooting was still active and declined to offer more information. So there's no sign yet that the feds are getting in the way of this investigation. So let's see what happens. Ruben's mother was told that the case would be presented to a grand jury. But remember, this is Texas, and Texas officials are more than happy to tag along with Donald Trump's immigration national security missions. It is not clear until this week that federal immigration officers were involved in this murder. At least half a dozen other people have died during the nation's immigration crackdown under Trump's administration. That's what the news is saying. That's sane washing. You can just say this, just be straight about it and tell the truth and say that they were murdered by federal agents, because that's what happened. They were shot and killed by murdered agents. They didn't just happen to die. And that's a turn of phrase that media needs to learn. Use active language. The federal agents shot and killed Ruben Martinez, just like they did Renee Good, just like they did Alex Preddy, just like they did Keith Porter, just like they did with the man in detention facility, the Cuban immigrant. Ruben's mother says this. Since Ruben's death a year ago, all we have wanted is justice for him, and we have struggled with the silence surrounding his killing. Now the country is in crisis, and terribly, heartbreakingly, other families are enduring what we have. It's my hope that attention being raised now into Ruben's death will help bring justice we want for him and the answers we haven't had. Martinez, it further says, the story says, Martinez failed to follow traffic instructions, so they surrounded his car. Something is deeply wrong about federal agents doing traffic stops, number one. That's not their job or jurisdiction. And surrounding a car to make it comply with traffic law is not standard traffic police behavior. It is escalatory and dangerous for the agent. And that practice actually played a part in the Fed getting hit by the car, as the feds allege. The Fed got in front of the car. The car didn't turn towards the Fed and hit the Fed. Remember that. Governor Greg Abbott's office also declined to comment and referred questions to DHS. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Speaker of the House Representative Dustin Burrows did not respond to questions for comment on Saturday. So Texas officials are stonewalling the public about the murder by federal agents. American Oversight's executive director said, "What they're telling the public is very different than what they're doing behind closed doors. The only reason why we're able to make these connections and really call into question the public statements that they're making to mislead the public is because we are able to get our hands on these documents. That should deeply concern everyone." State Representative from Austin said Friday night that she had requested a legislative oversight inquiry to release the body cam footage of Martinez's shooting. Representative Castro called for a thorough probe into the shooting, including why there was an 8-month cover-up. San Antonio mayor also weighed in, calling for a congressional investigation into the shooting, saying that in normal times, I would call upon the appropriate departments to investigate this matter. She said to the news, "However, we are not in normal times, and it's unclear any department-led investigations would be fairly executed, as evident by the delay in getting answers at this point." So really, how many have been murdered by federal agents and we don't know about it? This murder was reported locally but not carried by the national news, and somehow the feds were able to cover it up for nearly a year. And that should really concern us all. How many others have died in DHS custody that we don't know about? How many others did they shoot in the dead of night, like Keith Porter and Ruben Martinez, and then covered it up? They kind of slipped it in the middle of the night news and then just let it slide. The department did not respond to questions about why it had made no media release or other public notification of officer-involved shootings over the last 11 months. His mother said he had never had prior run-ins with law enforcement. The passenger, who's also a U.S. citizen, was taken into custody. Why? What did they do wrong? We don't know. Attorneys for the family said Friday that they have spent the past year pursuing accountability and transparency. It is critical that there is a full and fair investigation into why Homeland Security was present at the scene of the traffic collision and why a federal officer shot and killed a U.S. citizen as he was trying to comply with instructions from the local law enforcement officers directing traffic, the attorneys said. According to ICE's report, federal agents involved in the shooting were part of a maritime border enforcement security task force typically focused on combating transnational criminal organizations at seaports. So their alert level, their escalatory level, their method of doing things is completely different than how local traffic laws and local traffic police operate. This goes to show that what happens when you have federal agents from other departments come into local jurisdictions within the United States and let them run amok and do whatever they want within our borders against citizens when they are not traffic police. They are federal agents supposed to be guarding the borders from criminal organizations, not shooting 23-year-old U.S. citizens who are being stopped at a traffic stop. They didn't give him a chance, his mother said. It's so excessive. They could have done anything else besides that. It's like they shoot first and ask questions later. Democratic State Representative Ray Lopez, who serves as vice chair for the Texas House Committee on Homeland Security, Public Safety, and Veterans Affairs, said he formally exercised authority under a Texas House rule to compel the committee chairman, a Republican, to schedule a hearing on Martinez's death. It is not immediately clear when a hearing might be scheduled. When anyone in authority, in any level of policing, federal, state, or local, decides to take the most drastic measure, and that's ending someone's life, you need to be sure that you are doing it as a last resort, Representative Lopez said. I don't feel that the information that I've read implies to me that it was a last resort, and I want to get to the bottom of it. And I'm really glad that these elected leaders have now caught on to this news that was hidden from the public, for lack of a better term to describe what they did, and now it's out. And now we must seek justice for Ruben just as much as we seek justice for Renee Good and Alex Preddy and Keith Porter and Ruben now, and then the person, the Cuban immigrant. And we need more transparency in seeing whether other people are getting killed by DHS agents at these concentration camps where there are thousands and thousands and thousands of detained people who are not being given their due process rights and being forced to live in subpar, subhuman, cruel, and unusual conditions. It is incumbent upon Americans to rise up and demand answers for why our federal government is attacking us under the guise of immigration enforcement. With that said, thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon.